I think the smaller communities are so great. I do want to
Yeah.
fit this in before we get
Yeah.
into the 10 a.m. a little bit into our second hour here of who's
Sure.
the bigger club, Arsenal
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Chelsea. And I think it's a really
Yeah.
good debate because I've seen it all over the place. And obviously, everyone knows I'm an Arsenal fan, and you're a Chelsea fan. And I think, look, if
Carefree.
you look over the history of everything, I know you guys have dominated the last 20 years or so in
Yeah.
terms of trophies and everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Arsenal seems like this could be the year they finally get a trophy. I really hope. But
Yeah.
I would say you got to look at the whole history, not the recency bias. Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
Chelsea's a very big club. Man City's a big
Mhm.
club. But if I'm looking at the overall
Mhm.
history, I think Arsenal's a bigger club than Chelsea because you can't just
Yeah.
have the one trophy in the 50s or whatever it was, and all of a sudden
Mhm.
not do anything for 50 years, and then Abramovich shows up, and then boom, they start winning
Mhm.
all these different trophies, which, again,
Mhm.
Jose Mourinho has some unbelievable sides. The
Yeah.
team that I think gave up like 13 or 14 goals in a season, and then the Eden
Mhm.
Hazard teams. I mean, those were some of like
Mhm.
the best soccer I've seen with Eden
Yeah.
Hazard. But I ultimately think in the course of history, Arsenal's a
Yeah.
bigger club than Chelsea.
No, I totally agree. I mean, it's if you want to just talk about like global brand. I mean, like when you think of just when the first thing when I think of it, the Barclays Premier League, I'm thinking of, or specifically Barclays, I'm thinking of Thierry Henry in the burgundy
Yeah, the
kit
O2.
with the gold O2. Doing a knee slide, of course. Arsenal is the more iconic of the teams, and so also Diwali, we won a couple FA Cups in the '70s, and under Ken Burns in the '90s, we were already making Champions League, so that we made ourselves desirable enough for Roman to buy the team. Anyways, but so because there seems like players like Gianluca Vialli, Jean-Francois Cazorla, we won a couple of cups. Obviously, I'm not here to dispute because obviously Arsenal during that time is actually winning Premier Leagues.
Have done it in a while.
Yeah, that's always the funny thing about Arsenal is that the mighty Arsenal for me is kind of, no offense, they always remind me of like the Jets, where it's like, are they a giant team that generates
suck
money?
that bad.
Yes. Well, but yes, but it's like
I would say
it's just
they're more like the Bills. I would say they're more like the Bills. Like, obviously they've won
yeah,
stuff compared to the Bills,
yeah,
but like in recent memories, like since we've been
mm,
coming second, like we just be finishing in second all the time, and Josh Allen is
yeah,
always like the bridesmaid to a Patrick Mahomes or a Joe
yes,
Burrow, and somehow this year
yeah.
Bo Nix. It's like
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's also that kind of thing of in the same way that like in American media where it's like all kind of they have to kind of talk about the Jets and the Giants where it's
yeah, fair.
I kind of feel the same
Any
way
New York team, really.
about yeah, exactly. And I mean obviously they're first in the Prem. So they should be talked about right now, but there's always going to be whether they're in first or they're 12th, that Arsenal is always going to be one of the first things that people talk about the Prem because they're obviously one of those classic teams that I think it's better for the league. I think it's better for soccer in general when Arsenal is good. It's this thing where I can say all this with a very wry smile because in, the past 10 years, I've seen my team win like 30 trophy, not 30, but 2 Champions League, 2 Europa Leagues, a Conference League. I could literally keep going on.
Yeah.
It's whatever. But no, it's this thing of like, so like none of my friends are Chelsea fans. They're all something else.
Probably a
And
Man United
so
fan.
yeah, there's some in there, but so like my 2 college roommates, one is a Liverpool fan, one is an AC Milan fan. We were talking about it, and they over the past couple of years when Chelsea's had the growing pains under new ownership or whatever, were giving me a bunch of crap about the team sucks, blah blah blah. And I was like, do you realize I've seen my club win is more Champions Leagues than both of your clubs combined? The first year I ever watched soccer was it was September 2011 when I moved to college, and my friends were like, "Hey, we watch soccer. You should pick a team." So I picked Chelsea that year, and then they won the Champions League, and they were like,
Didier Drogba, shout
remember,
out.
yeah, oh my god, and I just
He's an
remember
unbelievable
because,
striker.
dude, yeah, I
Big
mean that's my
moments.
first favorite player, exactly, and so is that thing of I remember my friend M being like, this, just know this doesn't happen. This doesn't happen usually when people watch for their first year and stuff, and so it's that kind of thing where it's like, dude, I have seen like. Not only have I seen my team win big trophies and big games, but it's like God, that 2012 run, after that, like, for me, it's house money. Like, we beat the best team I've ever seen in my life with Barcelona in Barcelona. I mean, for though, like, it, nothing was more terrifying. Nothing made your butt clench harder than that attack, dude. Oh my God. It's just, I still can't believe we won that game. And then obviously, like, that Bayern team wins the Champions League. Then, yeah, Robin, I mean, they win the Champions League immediately the next year, and then they destroy Brazil the year after that in the world. Like, that Bayern team is basically the World Cup team from 2 years later.
Minus Ozil and Miroslav Klose.
I mean, yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I mean, Mario Gomez. No, it's so yeah, it's one of those things where, yes, is Chelsea maybe not a bigger club, but I don't care.
It shouldn't matter. Like these debates, obviously.
They fuel this whole thing. What I always say is the two constants or what everyone always says is the two constants at Chelsea: chaos and trophies. Those are the two. Yes,
because even when, because you think obviously you guys had the Champions League run and that you won with Kai Havertz in 2021, which honestly I was rooting for
Tommy Tuchel.
Chelsea to win that one instead of Man City. Screw Man City.
It's on the principle at that point.
Exactly, but even since 2021, ever since that Champions League, you had the whole Abramovich thing and Putin thing, and he's got to sell the club. And the second half of the 2021 or 2022 season, you have no fans because they're not allowing anyone other than season ticket holders into the stadium because of everything. And then you can't, dude. Antonio Rudiger is so underrated. I feel like he's an underrated
love him.
And you had to
Psycho.
lose because you couldn't re-sign your players for a year because if they were under a year, you couldn't sign them or whatever it was. I forget what it was. And you lost
the
your
whole transfer ban thing.
line. It was unbelievable. And then you guys still win. You still win, obviously, a Club World Cup since then. Even when you suck, you still somehow sneak in a trophy and
a Conference League
too.
Which people can joke on that competition because obviously, we didn't really play anyone until the semifinals, but we still beat Real Betis in the finals, which, you can give crap once again about the size of the cup or whatever, but winning a final is hard,
final.
And that team had Antony. It's not like Real Betis was ready to just lay down and be like,
Antony,
oh, okay, you're just a beer. Exactly. Well, I mean, Antony, it's that classic thing of when, it's a United reject goes somewhere else. That's when they ball. He was balling for Betis.
But he left United, so he becomes good. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Exactly. So, I mean, that's still a hard game to win. Obviously, I'm not here trying to justify Chelsea's was great last year because it's been a rough few years for sure. I mean, even just watching the game yesterday, my fiance she works close by, so she'll come home and take a nap for work sometimes. And she was just like, why? She comes out after a break yesterday and she goes, why? What was that banging? And it's like, Cole Palmer missed a sitter from about 6 inches.
Oh my God, that sitter was horrible. How did you not just put that in the back of the net? You're right. It's unbelievable. Also, I got a question here. Obviously, you're a Chelsea fan.
Yeah.
2 months ago, we played each other at Stamford Bridge, 1-1 draw. And you guys were you guys were around us in the table, I guess, within a game or two, or 2 games, 6 points, something like that. Then you have a bad run of form, then you just fire Maresca or mutually part ways. You guys were in a title race 3 weeks before, and then you're just gone.
Yeah.
Why
Chaos
is it so chaotic there?
So, well, obviously, I think when you had Abramovich, who's literally like a war criminal, I don't really. There's no way to apply logic to a person who thinks illogical. Learn that in therapy. That one's for free, friends. But so, obviously he was just like a crazy Russian man who basically was like, if you don't win, I'm going to, because I remember Mikel would talk about it. He goes, when you saw his chopper land, you knew the coach was getting fired. When he would show up to the training in his chopper. But so, I mean, with Maresca, from everything I had heard, it was pretty much all behind the scenes. Because when you look back at his last year, Maresca was one of those dudes who, I'm sure have just talked to enough coaches in preparation, calling games and stuff. Sometimes you get a great coach who is going to be really, really talkative to you and really giving with his information. And then other times, you call a coach and you're like, so what's your strategy? And he just goes, I'm not telling you. And then just stops talking. You're kind of like, okay, great. There's a lot of these guys don't realize that like working with the press will help you in the long run. It's
weird.
It's one of those things. It's like this thing of like when Barry Bonds is like, I don't know why the writers won't vote me in. It's like, maybe because you were a jerk to them for like 20 years.
They kind of
so like,
they're kind of in charge of the awards.
Yeah, it literally. And yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, it's kind of the like, oh, the leopard ate my face kind of thing where it's like, well, what did you expect? And so that's what you would see that with Maresca, where he would explain something in the press conference. Then like afterwards, he'd look at the reporter and goes, did you see that? No, only I saw that. Like he was kind of like, you are the plebeians. I am the smart one. And I get it too, because I'm not sitting here and saying that I agree with the Blue Co and a lot of what they do. And so like, that's why, like, we talked about it earlier with Josie with the USMNT. Obviously, I would love Jose back for a third stint with Chelsea for that exact thing, where it's those hard conversations with, like, I don't know if you know this, but the guy who owns the Kings, Vivek, is a minority owner for Chelsea.
Okay.
And stuff. And Vivek is an idiot. He is just broadly gesticulating at the Kings. Like, they're so dumb. I don't know if you know this, but Vivek literally, when he bought the Kings, asked his coaches why they don't do cherry picking like they do in his daughter's 8th grade basketball game. Like, he's just that. It's, exactly. These owners sometimes are just like, well, why don't we do this? And it's just like,
they just want to keep
the professionals are.
Find the perfect formula, I guess. And yeah. Before we go to break right now, I do agree with you. I was a PA announcer for women's volleyball at Central Michigan, and I was always in charge of trying to get the lineups, because they never wrote in the lineups, and
exactly.
I'd go up to the opposing coach, and they would give them to me like 10 minutes beforehand so I can write it down, make sure I'm not wrong. And CMU, I'd go up to the coach and like, you have 5 minutes before like they have to be in no matter what.
Yeah.
And I'd go up 10 minutes beforehand, like, hey coach, you have your lineup, and he's like, no, I'm still thinking about it. I give me a couple minutes, and I'm sitting there. I'm like, I could give 2 shits who your lineup is. Just give me the list. Give me enough time to say it, because I know you're gonna get mad if I say something wrong. But just give me a little bit extra time. And it's like funny. It's the same lineup every single time. But that is it's also too. It's like, I don't care about the starting lineup. Give me the roster. I just want to know their names. Okay, exactly. Exactly.
Especially like, a lot of dudes will always think that they're, king of what mountain or whatever. And it's like, dude, you're the head coach. Like, I'm not here to disparage women's college volleyball or anything like that, but it's like, dude, you're the coach at Central Michigan. You're not Bill Belichick. All right. Like, no one is here spying on your lineup. Like, there's very few clandestine things are happening at that level. It's, coaches can very much get into their own heads. Yeah.